from the best our research has shown from all different sorts of websites, 100% of the people who have been given the death penalty have a 0.0% recidivism rate. To me, that is an amazing statistic. 100%. However, in 1972, a group of death row inmates in Georgia was let off on a technicality, essentially. They found that the way capital punishment was being enforced at the time was unconstitutional, and a group of death row inmates was let off to a lesser sentence. This group of people between 1972 and 1987 went on to kill 12 more innocent people. This is 12 innocent people that would be alive today if the punishment were carried out the way it's supposed to. This, to me, goes beyond the fact that they argue that innocent people can be put to death because of the death penalty, which has never happened, which I'll get to later. But this... And these are 12 actually innocent people. Hard to believe, but they were innocent. They had never committed a crime, they were never arrested for anything, they were innocent people. Another thing they brought up is racism, and how racist the death penalty is. How much it's not fair to black people or minorities, and how much it promotes white supremacy. They came up with a couple of statistics. I found one statistic that said since 1976, 57% of those killed were white, and only 34% of those killed were black. They can argue that that's disproportionate, that there's different demographics in the country, that only 12% of the population is African American. To me, those numbers speak for themselves. A 1991 study concluded that white killers on death row received the death penalty 32% of the time, whereas black killers who received the death penalty were only executed 27% of the time. Another thing I looked up from an anti-death penalty website looking for different statistics, they say more than 20% of black defendants who have been executed were convicted by all white juries. I thought to myself, that does seem racist. Then I also thought to myself, that means 80% of black defendants who were executed were convicted by non-all-white jurors and juries. To me, that executes the... excuse me, that doesn't execute. That excludes their arguments of racism. They also argue that these people who are put to death who have been supposedly innocent have the right to life. Personally, I and my organization value more the right to life of actual innocent people versus convicted criminals convicted of a jury by their peers. In Texas, I'm sure our distinguished opponents know, as well as many of you do, Texas has the most executions per capita. In 1991, the murder rate in Texas, in our state, was 15.3 people for every 100,000. By 1999, it had fallen to 6.1 people per 100,000, a drop of 60%. Within Texas, the most aggressive death penalty prosecutions are in Harris County, which they had mentioned before. They mentioned how corrupt these people were and how uneducated they were. What they forgot to mention was the fact that since 1982, the annual number of killings and murders in Harris County has gone down from 701 to 241, a 72% decrease. Another thing I would like to bring up is that all of the fail-safes behind the death penalty. Again, they've made the claim numerous times tonight that innocent people have been put to death. This is not right. This is not what America stands for. They also brought up how much it costs, which to me says that if it costs so much, we're making sure that these people really are guilty. They have trials, they have retrials, they're convicted again, new evidence is brought up, and it turns out that they're still guilty. To me, the only explanation I can find of that being is that the people actually are guilty. All of this money is invested, all of this time is invested, all of these people spend this much time on it. I think that means the people are guilty. And it turns out the Death Penalty Information Center concurs. They studied 102 people who were released from death row and found that only 32 people have any sort of claim to actually be innocent, and only 12 of those are DNA claims. Out of 7,300 death sentences since 1973. Out of 7,300, that is 32, or 0.4%, of people that have any claim to be innocent. Any claim whatsoever, not people that have been proven innocent. Finally, I would like to bring up one of their favorite examples of Mr. Cameron Todd Willingham. Now, they brought up Mr. Willingham within the first couple minutes of their speech. And the first thing I heard was that he was accused of killing his 2 kids. In fact, he had 3 kids. To me, this shows that they weren't quite checking their facts, our distinguished opponents. He did indeed have 3 kids. He had 2 one-year-old twins and a 3-year-old. All 3 were girls. He was arrested in 1991 for burning his house down. A couple of things I'd like to point out about the case. The neighbors say he did absolutely nothing to try to save his kids. Instead, he laid on the front lawn and crouched down for fear of the flames. He did, however, make sure to get his car out of the driveway where it would not be harmed by the fire. He also, according to a fireman's later report, complained that his dartboard was burnt. He had no remorse about his 3 daughters, not 2. His 3 daughters dying, being killed by him. But he was upset that his dartboard was burnt and that he made sure to move his car. Expert witnesses say that he did intentionally cause the fire. Not only did he do that, he prevented the firemen from getting in the house by putting extra lighter fluid on the floor. The next day, according to the neighbors, he and his wife looked around the house for any valuables, anything that they might be able to find in the rooms, and at the same time laughed and played music. On the day he was actually executed, he and his wife had been divorced by then. He condemned his wife to hell, attempted to give her obscene gestures, called her a bitch, and continued yelling obscenities as he was being killed. They like to put this case on a pedestal and say that this is a man who was truly innocent, who is the victim of capital punishment in America as we know it today. And the fact of the matter is that is simply not true. He was, in fact, guilty. Some numbers I would like to bring up are that of the 3,314 convicted murderers on death row, 64.4% had a prior felony conviction at the time of the murder, 8.2% had a prior homicide conviction at the time of the murder, 26.7% were on probation or parole at the time of the murder, and 4.9% were incarcerated or had escaped from prison.
Sorry, I'm a little sick. I have a really quick question. So, going back to the beginning of the speech, you said something about the numbers speaking for themselves. I wasn't really clear about that. That made me past the point right now. I'm not sure how being an asshole automatically makes you a murderer. The point is that it's not that Cameron Todd Willingham was a nice or nasty guy, right? The question is, did he start the fire in his house? And the arson experts that have reviewed the trial seem to be making it clear that, in fact, he did not start the fire. And it seems that if we're putting somebody to death on the basis of a crime that they actually committed instead of a crime that they didn't commit, that would be an important issue.
Sir, I'm sorry. If you have a fact that you'd like to refute from the citation that you have, definitely go ahead and state that. But if you just have a comment that you'd like to make, we'd like you to make that in the next period of audience comments.
Okay, I guess my question is...
He's stating a fact that those arson experts were debunked. Thoroughly debunked.
Right. We'd love to have you come up and state that in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, my question is, and then I'll move on. My question is...
Wait till your turn!
I'm asking a question.
Guys, if we could all just keep going, what we'd really love for you to do is come back up when we call for all the audience members.
The point is, what sources are you citing? Like newspapers and things like that?
I have my sources. They're right here. If you'd like to come and look at them, you can go to all the websites. I would like to know the names of those arson investigators, or the dates, or the actual quotes. I don't think I heard any of those from the previous question.